What else can we do with lists? Well, we can do concatenation with lists just like we were able to do with strings. So let's try that. So I'm going to just go up to the top so that we see the code easier. So here we want to concatenate. Okay, so I could go to name and I could say name, for example, plus equal to college. And let's put a space here. And then I can print it and I find that it changed. Okay, I was able to add things to it. Let's try that. So I'm able to do that, the plus equal. I can do that with lists also. So I can here have like a second list. So let's create a second list at the top. My list 2 equal to happy and grumpy. And I go and I can say my list, for example, plus equal my list 2. And I'll tell you what this is going to do, because this is not going to do what we're expecting it to do. Okay. So here it adds the elements that are in my my list 2 to my list. Let's try one more thing. My list plus equal sleepy. And let's see what that does. And that puts here sleepy as individual characters. So when you're adding a string, this side has to be a string. So you need to add a string to a string. Here, when you're adding, this must be, you're adding a list to a list. So when you're adding, what you're giving it is a list to append to itself. You're not adding an element to a list. So this is not adding an element to the list, okay? So this is what I wanted to show you. When you're adding here, you're adding contents of a list. If you give it a string, what it's going to do, it's going to add it as if it was a list. So adding a string will add the contents as individual elements at the characters. Let's say characters and individual elements. What would happen if I try to add a number? Let's see if that's going to work. Let's say 78. And it doesn't work. So here it says that int is not iterable. What does it mean, iterable? Means that you can't go through element by element. So I can here say, I can come to a string and I say, for every character in you. I can go to a list and say, for every item in you. But I can't go and say, for every something in the 78. So this is not going to work. This one doesn't work. So this one won't work because I cannot iterate over a number. I can't break it up in two pieces, basically. If it was a string, I could break it up into the 7 and 8, but I can't do that with a number. So we're seeing that there are similarities. The purpose of this is to see that there are similarities between a list and a string that are not there between other elements, types like int and float, for example. So I can add lists using the plus equal. What I could also do is I could create a new, totally new list, like new list equal to my list 2 plus my list, and then add again to it my list 2. So I can have many lists, and then I can print it. And so what I'm doing is I'm creating a totally new list from existing lists. And so now I got my list 2, which is happy and grumpy, and then I got my list, which is apples 1, 2, 3, and then I got my list 2 again, which is happy and grumpy. Oh, and it still has sleepy. Let's just comment out that sleepy because we don't want that in it. So now it just has happy, grumpy, apples 1, 2, 3, and then happy, grumpy again. Why is there another happy and grumpy? Because, oh, we modified my list to have my list 2. Okay, that's fine. So my list 2 is happy and grumpy, but my list now contains also the contents of 2 because we added it in. That's fine. So we can concatenate using the plus and the plus equal. What else can we do? We can use the repetition, just like we did with a string. Let's see that. So here I can print name times 3. And I can also print my list 2 times 3. Try that. And so here I got MCC College printed 3 times, and now I have the list 3 times. Notice that this is giving me a new list, so I could actually have created like third list equal to my list times 3. And then here instead I can just print my third list. Let's try that. So this is also a way that you can create another list which contains multiple copies of the existing list. Okay, let's do 2 because 2 is less confusing. Okay, so now I see happy, grumpy 3 times in this list. So you can use the repetition operator just like we did with strings. What else do they have in common? Well, they have slicing in common. Remember slicing when we passed in like a beginning and an end and we had different variations of it? What it did was give us part of a string. Well, we can also do that with a list. Let's kind of review slicing really quickly. I wanted to go to name and say, give me from 1 to 3. This is going to give me location 1. It's going to give me location 2, but it's not going to give me 3. And so I get only the CC without the 0. If I said, for example, I want only, if I just say 1 colon, that means I want from 1 to the end, which is going to give me the same thing. 1, oh sorry, now it has college, so it's going to give me 1 to the end. And so I can do slicing. So let's look at a few examples of slicing, how they work with strings and with lists. So here I have a list that has a bunch of days in it, and I want the days from 0 to 5. So this is going to say, give me starting with 0, but not including 5. So it's going to give me 0 to 4. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's going to give me up to Friday. If I don't specify the beginning, it means I want you to give me from the beginning. So this is the same as the first one. I didn't specify the beginning, so it's going to start giving me from 0. So it's going to give me the same output. If I say I want 5 to 7, well, this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's going to give me the Saturday. That's 5. It's going to give me the Sunday, which is 6. And that's not going to give me the 7. So it's giving me Saturday and Sunday. If I say 5 to the end, it gives me the same output. If I leave everything blank, it means I want from beginning to end. If I say I want from the beginning, from 0, this means to the end because it's missing the end, so it means the end. And the 2 means I want every other variable, every other element. So it's going to go add 2 to the index. So it's going to give me 0, 2, 4, and 6. So it's going to give me Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. And here we can do backwards. So remember, we said when we go backwards, when you count backwards, we're going to start with -1. So Sunday is -1. Saturday is -2. So this is going to give us from Saturday, which is -2, and then -3, -4, -5, -6. Tuesday is -6, but it's not going to be included. So it's going to go from Saturday to Wednesday, not including Tuesday because we don't include the end. And it's going in -2. So after it does Saturday, it's going to go and do Thursday. And so we can do slicing just like we were able to do with strings. Now, there are other methods that we can do with lists that we weren't able to do with strings. So starting from here, we're now talking about things that we can do with lists, not with strings. What you can do is append an element to a list. So if you have a list and you want to add an element to it, you can add an element using the append. So remember here, let's go back up. When I wanted to add sleepy, when I added sleepy this way, what it did was it added it as if it was a list. So it added the S and then the L. It added every character individually. But if I wanted to add something to my list, okay, so this is list method. Let's talk about append. So I can come here to my list and say my list dot append, and I want you to append, for example, 5, 6, 7. Now print my list to see what it contains. And let's comment out this code down here. Did I comment everything out? Let me check. So here we have my list, and I'm adding something, appending something to it. So now my list contains 5, 6, 7. So if I want to add something to the list, I can use the append method to add to the end. I can also extend it with another list, which says add all the elements in the other list to the current list. Now this is very similar to the plus equal. So if I want to say my list dot extend with my list 2, print my list. So now instead of just being apples 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, what happened was it extended it and made it bigger, and it added happy and grumpy. This is exactly the same as saying my list plus equal my list 2. These two are equivalent. Okay, so both of them give me the same thing. So these two lines are equivalent. So extend as plus equal. Right, so you can achieve adding elements to a list in both ways. You can sort a list, and by sorting a list, it's going to put things in ascending order. So if I have a list here, and let's just make it a num list. 7, 9, 19, 5, 99, 56, and I want to sort it. So what I can do is I can come here and I can say sort num list, and then I'll print num list to see that it's sorted. Oops, I forgot a comma. Let's try one more time. Sorry, it's num list dot sort. And I'll tell you, this is something that's a little confusing about lists. Sometimes you call a method on it, and sometimes you call like functions like length, for example. So here when I sorted the list, when I said num list sort yourself, then it gave me the list sorted. So if you have numbers, you can sort them. Can I sort also strings? Yes, I can. So let's add here a couple more strings like zebra and banana. And let's sort it. So I'm going to go to my list 2 and say sort yourself. And then I'm going to print my list 2. And I see that it sorted it alphabetically. Now, do you think I can sort this list that has apples in 1, 2, 3? Let's see what happens if I try to sort that one. If I say my list dot sort, let's try printing my list. It says I can't do it. Why can't it do it? Because underneath what Python is doing is using the less than and greater than operator to see which element is bigger and smaller. And there is no less than operator defined that could compare an int or a string. So if you want to sort a list, the list has to be all the same type. So sorting numbers, sorting strings is possible, but sorting mixed type lists is not possible. So this will not work. So we need to comment that code out. So you can sort lists, which is nice if you're asking the user for things that they've bought and you want to sort them in ascending order, or students in your class and you want to sort them in alphabetical order. You can do that with the sort method.